You know what? I'm a little concerned I might have gaslighted you about gaslighting. And so this video is a bit of a clarification. It's going to take on the topic of gaslighting and reality. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Ramani. This is a YouTube channel on narcissism and narcissistic relationships and just how to cope with toxic situations in general. My hope is what you learn on this channel really helps you manage these situations, which can really take a toll on all of us. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. I'd love to have you join this community and learn about narcissism so you can better navigate this difficult territory. And if you want notifications each time we put out a new video, just hit that notification bell or button and you'll get those notifications every day. Let's talk about this. Okay, this idea of gaslighting and reality. Gaslighting is so central and core to understanding narcissism and narcissistic abuse, healing from it, and the word is used by everyone these days, right? Well, I was actually recently doing a lecture for a large group of people, and someone in the group made a really good point that left me thinking for a few days afterwards. I was talking about gaslighting in the lecture, and I was talking about it as when a person denies your reality. And she called me out, and she said, "I don't think you have that right." She said, "I think it's when someone denies reality." And her point was when we make gaslighting about denial of subjective reality, then the narcissistic person is in a much better position to fight even more mean, right? They say, well, if you have your reality, then I have mine, right? She was right. And this is why the specificity of language when we talk about gaslighting matters so much. Gaslighting denies reality, not just your reality, reality. And we're not going to use this as a philosophical discussion about epistemology and all the rest of it, this idea of what is reality, not a philosophy class, right? So for me to make this more clear, let me just show you some very simple examples of what gaslighting can look like, ones that you're very familiar with. So the gaslighter says, "I didn't say that." And they did. In fact, you have a recording of them saying it. That is a denial of reality, not your reality, of reality. You have a recording. They said it. They say, "That never happened." And you have evidence it did. Again, that's a denial of reality. Gaslighting is so often predicated on there not being a witness or an empowered witness to reality. For example, a child may witness the gaslighting but be too fearful of contradicting a parent. So the gaslighter can deny something happened, but even without a witness, let's face it, a crime can still be perpetrated, right? They're just harder to prosecute. But so much of this, if no one saw it, it didn't happen, is part of the problem. But I think the distinction that this woman brings up is really, really important, because when we get lost in the idea that they are denying our reality, well, most survivors of narcissistic abuse are so riddled with confusion and self-doubt and self-blame that they do not believe themselves. And as a result, if it comes down to a smackdown between your reality and their reality, you're probably still going to talk yourself out of it because you don't feel solid enough in your reality. But reality, that's pretty indisputable, right? I've talked about the sequence before, this scenario I'd once witnessed, a situation where one person told another person that their doctor's appointment was at a time it wasn't. The person who had the appointment knew it was at 12 noon. The gaslighter said it was at 1. Now, I happened to be there when the appointment was made, and it was written on one of those little cards, and even a confirmation call came in saying that the appointment was at 12 noon. That is reality. The gaslighter insisted it was at 1. That is a defiance and a denial of reality. And the gaslighter wouldn't budge, which if I hadn't intervened would have resulted in a missed appointment for that person because the other person, the gaslighter, refused to drive them to the appointment for 12 p.m. The person it happened to had been so narcissistically abused for so many years that she really doubted herself. I had the good sense to keep the card because I knew the other person in the situation was a gaslighter, and ultimately I turned things around so I could drive this person to the appointment, which of course was at noon, reality. Now remember that gaslighting has a two-part sequence, right? The part 2 is where the gaslighter then breaks a person down. They tell them that they're lazy or stupid or crazy or disorganized or have a bad memory. That's the part of gaslighting that's about control and dominance. But again, that's also a violation of reality. You are not those things. So if someone is saying, oh, your memory is slipping, unless it is, that is not reality. The part B of gaslighting, where the gaslighter tries to call you mentally unwell or telling you that there's something wrong with you, that is where it gets tricky. But if you can hold on to this idea that it is not subjective reality being denied, but reality, that can make you more steadfast. One problem is that in gaslighting, the part B, they often go at things that we don't feel good about. For example, playing upon our own vulnerabilities, that we do feel disorganized, or perhaps have existing mental health symptoms like anxiety, or even they'll go after historical stuff for us, like, oh, you really are just like your mother, aren't you? Again, that is not reality, but it is like someone knocking us down where we already have a broken bone. It really hurts, and because of that, we often fall. Part B of gaslighting is also where your reactions and your emotions are pathologized. If you have a strong reaction to a cruel comment or situation, they write you off as crazy and take no accountability for the upsetting behavior in which they are engaging. Now, remember also that gaslighting is not about a difference of opinion. That's one way the word gaslighting is often misused. Stupid example. You believe that soft serve is better than regular ice cream. You're gaslighting me, because of course we know that's not true. No, they're not gaslighting you. They just have a different ice cream preference than you. Opinions are not about reality. Even when someone has a really outlandish opinion or belief, they aren't gaslighting you. They may just be being stubborn or perhaps bizarre. Now, if the person said, there's no such thing as soft serve ice cream, that's a denial of reality and a little bit insane. Or if they said to you, you've never eaten soft serve ice cream, again, denial of reality. But the difference of opinion between soft serve and regular ice cream, that's not gaslighting. And clearly I am craving some soft serve ice cream right now. Now, the other issue becomes motivation. Gaslighters will often try to talk about our motivation and try to make it reality. They'll say, you're angry at me. You don't want me to be happy. Again, if that's not what you feel, then that's not true. Maybe you are angry at them, maybe you aren't. But they work off of that assumption without checking it out first. Again, that's a denial of reality. Gaslighting is also not about interpretation. Some folks will say, oh, well, I didn't kiss her, so that's not cheating, or it was just DMs, so I didn't really betray you. And now that starts getting into the sticks in terms of definitions and interpretation, and it's manipulative and minimizing, all of which are a part of gaslighting, right? And yes, this does get a little bit more to maybe a subjective experience, but in orthodox gaslighting, it's just straight up reality that's being denied. So I can see how sometimes there's some slippages in how people experience this. Let's just think of the movie Gaslight. He denied the idea that the lights were flickering and the sounds were happening in the attic. Those things were not just her reality, they were real, right? And then he told her, you're just tired and stressed and you're loopy. And he got the housekeepers in on it too, so she'd feel crazy. But the flickering lights, even if everyone denied it, they were real. You can see, though, how collective gaslighting is so powerful, with multiple people denying reality. It takes some courage and strength to hold on to reality at those times. And if we have been gaslighted long enough, it's all but impossible to push back on that. So to the woman who raised her hand and brought up that question, I really wish I got your name. I thank you so much for calibrating my language better. It's how we learn. Gaslighting is simply about reality. Not your reality, not my reality, but reality. And we have to be clear on this so we don't give the gaslighters the weapon to turn around and say, well, if you're saying that's your reality, they'll turn it into a subjective battle. Let the philosophers hash out what reality is. But if something happened, it happened. End of discussion. It's cruel to tell someone it didn't. Hope that clarifies it, and thanks again.